Hello, I am back with another session, and today the topic is GS3. And I would encourage you all to please try these questions and get it evaluated on CollectorBabu. So, the questions are given to you in the morning. Write it down as and when you have time and try to prescribe to the time limit and then upload it, get it evaluated from CollectorBabu, and you will be able to track your progress, how these sessions have been able to benefit you. Today's session is on GS3, and we will have some important questions that we'll be discussing, and the format remains the same, that we will be discussing with some of the PYQs and one question which is modeled on the basis of PYQ. You can see the questions on your screen. The first is this question on inflation by RBI. So the first question is, look on your screen and try to break it in parts and understand how you have to approach this question. What are the causes of persistent high food inflation in India? Comment on the effectiveness of monetary policy of the RBI to control this type of inflation. It is a PYQ and it is 10 marker. So we all know that you'll only be getting 2 pages to write this. This question seems fairly big, like causes of inflation you have to identify and the effectiveness of monetary policy. And in terms of effectiveness, you have to actually address how it has been successful in controlling inflation, as well as how there are certain things lacking that monetary policy alone cannot achieve, where it needs government support as well. Let's approach this question. See, for this type of question, I would suggest have a data on your hand, because inflation is a very common topic. You might get any recent data on inflation. So try to get food price index or consumer price index or whatever inflation related data you have, write it down and say that it is headline inflation, that it includes food and fuel as well. So according to Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation report, the year on year inflation rate based on all India consumer food price index is provisionally at 9.24%. So it's a fairly high rate of inflation, and it is asking about food inflation. So we have to talk about causes of persistent food inflation. So obviously everybody knows about supply chain inefficiencies, monsoon dependency 60%, and try to get as much data as possible. For example, 40% of the post harvest losses in fruits and vegetable due to poor storage. Okay, then multiple intermediaries, monsoon dependency, rising input cost is very important. And for all the points you brainstorm, try to get data at least on 4 to 5 points, because without data, economy does not mean a lot. See, you have to support your answers by data, examples. Your argument needs some substance. For that reason, you need some data. For example, an increase in fuel inflation by 1% leads to 0.13% rise in food inflation. So fuel inflation and food inflation is connected. Then post harvest losses, all these data you will get in the newspaper on day-to-day basis. So if you get any data, please note it down. It will be beneficial for you while writing mains answer. Minimum support price and how it impacts, like it create a high floor price, pushing up the market price, further increasing food inflation. Global price volatility, like because of OPEC market decisions on oil cartelization, and also Israel Hamas war. So you have to think of all the points and try to write as much as possible. See, for 10 marker, I have written 7 points, but you don't really need to write that much. You can write 5 points and give example and data to support each of them. Then effectiveness. This is a very, because again it is 10 marker. So this is a way where you can make a table, write success and limitation, so that everything is right in front of evaluator's eyes. So repo rate hike to manage headline inflation, and how RBI has been successful using it monetary policy committee. Okay, so you have to talk about what monetary policy and what RBI does basically in tackling food inflation, and then proactive priority sector lending to farmers, because inflation, food inflation particularly, is supply driven. Like we'll write that in limitation. Like food inflation is driven by supply side factors, seasonal fluctuation. Again, we have talked about why persistent inflation, global factors beyond the control of RBI. Try to write those points and say how RBI's monetary policy committee alone cannot do. So we can break while and because such questions, there is the thing asked how monetary policy committee has been effective, not effective, to try to give solutions. Maybe you can divide it in short term, long term, or because it is 10 marker, you do not have that much of bandwidth to explore and not the page as well. So you can just write 3, combine it, or 2, combine it, and as way forward, and then conclude the answer. And then you can write buffer stock management and open market operations. Like all these you can write. Fine. And you can also give some other example, like how government of India, to tackle inflation in pulses, to tackle inflation in rice, they released Bharat brand of pulses, Bharat brand of rice. So try to give that example, which will be very beneficial for you. Okay. And then controlling food inflation requires coordinated efforts between RBI's monetary policy tools and government supply side measure. So give that as a conclusion. The second question is on inclusive growth, which is one of the most favorite topic of UPSC. It has always been asking the same question in one way or another. Try to answer it. Firstly, we can give a definition of inclusive growth, and you can use this definition. You can use any other definition as well. Inclusive growth means growth that creates employment opportunities and help in reducing poverty and creating resources for everyone, distributing resources. Um, get any standard definition and just remember it. While answering question on inclusive definition, you can start by a definition. Challenges in achieving inclusive growth. See, because the first part is inclusive growth possible under market economy? So the question is hinting towards how inclusive growth seems that it is not possible under market economy. So you have to first address why it seems difficult to achieve inclusive growth in a market economy. So you can write by challenges, and then you will write key. However, this is not the only case. Government can still try for inclusive growth through government intervention, not purely market driven, right? Because Indian economy is a case of mixed economy. Then challenges in achieving inclusive growth, give as much points and data as possible. For example, unequal access of resources, concentration of wealth and power. The recent inequality lab report, it suggested how shares in income and wealth of top 1% at 22.6% and 40% respectively. So use all these data. Without data, your argument will not make much sense. Okay, especially for GS3, please use as much data as you have. And then lack of social security nets, uneven regional development. The per capita state domestic product of the higher income state has increased to 2.5 times by 2019-20. Highest FDI in Tamil Nadu and almost negligible in Bihar, etc. So try to find examples. However, it is not impossible to achieve inclusive growth within a market economy, right? Government is taking efforts, for example, providing basic resources like education, healthcare, other essential services, housing, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and for all the arguments you give examples. And also, to make your answer even better, go to economic survey and you will find plenty of data on each of these indicator. Get those data, write it down, use it. It will be very beneficial for you. Here I have not included data. That is something you'll have to do on your own. And the number of houses constructed and the beneficiaries under Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, it increases. So while writing answer, go check economic survey and have the recent data at your hand. And then it is about promoting capital expenditure, promoting infrastructure. Use the data, use the budget figure to enhance your answer. Okay, that is very much needed. And then the second part of the question is significance of financial inclusion in achieving economic growth. So this is something that you'll have to write. And here, like how financial inclusion helps by providing social security net, by providing marginalized community some bandwidth to set up their self entrepreneurship, like through Mudra Yojana, through Stand Up India scheme, etc. Like financial inclusion provide benefits to self help group. Try to write those points and give examples as well. Okay, that will make your answer even better. And the more the data, the more the marks you'll get. And the Indian government has taken several initiatives such as Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, and this will help promote financial inclusion. See, this is one way, as we had talked in earlier sessions, that you can summarize whatever you have written in conclusion, or what you can do is connect it with any larger goal. Like every year in budget, government sets out certain priority, connect it with that priority of the government. For example, in last year budget, it was Saptarishi priority. Connected to those priorities, that is another way in writing answer in GS3. The third way is connected with sustainable development goals. You will get plenty of sustainable development goals, right? Try to understand what the theme of the question is and connect it with the larger sustainable development goal, and write how, if such and such scheme is implemented, if such and such progress is made in this direction, it will help in achieving this sustainable development goal or that sustainable development goal. Okay, so sustainable development goals should be on your fingertips, especially for GS3 for writing answers and conclusions. And then analyze the concept of gender budgeting and its significance in India's economic policy framework. Discuss the major challenges hindering effective implementation of gender budgeting in India and suggest measures to enhance its impact on gender equality and women empowerment. So it is a fairly big question, as you might have seen the trend. Two PYQ questions and the third one 15 marker. It is based on PYQ, but it covers a lot more. Why? Because our goal is to keep on learning and understand how we'll be writing. For 15 marker, you will be writing 3 pages. Firstly, define what gender budgeting is and give the recent data. And why this question is asked. Try to ask yourself this particular question. Why is this particular question asked? Because in this year's budget, gender budgeting took a very important place. So as you can suggest in like after writing example, just give one line of data, like to 24-25 budget emphasized women-led development with gender budget allocations reaching 1% of the GDP, and it happened for the first time. So gender budgeting became very important. Okay, and then significance of gender budgeting, write 5 significance. See, for this you can give some data, but because you have to explain how gender budgeting is important and how significant it is, you have to connect it how it helps in allocation of proper resources, and how it enables women-led development. For that, if you have data, very good, and if not, then you have to explain it, connect and explain, but in very short phrases and lines. Okay, like it helps identify gender gaps and biases in allocation of public resources, or directing resources towards program and schemes that specifically benefit women. Okay, promotes greater transparency and accountability in government's expenditure. Like expenditure is missing, but write it down. And challenges related to gender budgeting. See, challenges you will always find this in any scheme is over reporting, under reporting. Okay, neglect of key sector and weak institution. You just have to write this in gender budgeting also, but have some examples, like for example, Prime Minister Employment Generation Program example you can give, that sometimes just for populist measure it shows inflated figures, which is not quite the case. And then underreporting, like some of the crucial sectors where money is spent on women development, women-led development and pro-women scheme, it is not included. Then you can give some example like Stand Up India scheme, Vishwakarma scheme, Swanidhi. It is not properly documented. Then third is neglect of key sectors. Okay, and then it is weak institutional mechanisms. lack of coordination among various government departments, and the absence of clear guidelines and frameworks of gender budgeting. Again, to write way forward, what you're going to do, what are the challenges and how you address it. The challenges we have given and how you will address those challenges, which is simple. If it is weak institutional mechanism, then we have to and absence of clear guideline, then what is it? We have to establish clear guidelines, frameworks, and accountability mechanism. Very simple. And sustained political will is very necessary for women-led development, right? And a comprehensive capacity building program and collection analysis and the quality of data. It should be very good. And we can conclude that overcoming these challenges will help us in achieving sustainable development goal 5 of achieving gender equality, right? So this was all for today, and we will be back next Monday, hopefully, and we will be talking about GS4 questions. So till then, keep practicing and keep writing and get it evaluated on CollectorBabu, and try to track your progress, how this session has been beneficial. Please keep on writing. It will be very good.